नमस्ते। कार्यक्रम स्वास्थ्य संवादमा यहाँहरूलाई हार्दिक स्वागत छ। म डाक्टर सुभाष प्याकुरेल। आज अप्रिल 7 अर्थात् विश्व स्वास्थ्य दिवस। 73 वर्ष अगाडि सन् 1948मा आजकै दिन विश्व स्वास्थ्य सङ्गठनको विधान औपचारिक रूपमा पारित भएको दिनलाई लिएर विश्व स्वास्थ्य दिवस मनाउने गरिन्छ। यो WHO को एनिभर्सरीको रूपमा पनि लिने गरिन्छ। यस वर्षको नारा रहेको छ समान स्वस्थ संसार, बिल्डिङ अ फेयरर अ हेल्दियर वर्ल्ड। आज यसै दिवसको अवसर पारेर हामीसँग कार्यक्रममा विशेष अतिथिका रूपमा हुनुहुन्छ नेपाल स्थित विश्व स्वास्थ्य सङ्गठनका प्रतिनिधि डाक्टर राजेश सम्बजी राव पाण्डव। कार्यक्रममा यहाँलाई हार्दिक स्वागत छ।
Namaskar.
First, we love to know your professional journey, from what kind of background you came from, what's your individual moment, and how did you join WHO and all?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me here. I decided to go to medical school basically based on the experience in the family, because two of my brothers were doctors, okay, and the work they were doing, one in clinical medicine, one in public health, that interested me. So I passed out in 19.
You have three brothers.
We are four brothers together. Three of us are doctors, so that helped to make a decision, and the work they were doing both in that. So after graduation, I worked in a rural area, a project on iodine deficiency disorders, where at that time, goiter, which is swelling of this thyroid gland, was very prevalent in this country. Galganda, yeah. And my brother was also working in Nepal, supporting through All India Institute of Medical Sciences. So that interested me in public health, his work. And after that, I decided to do some field experience in the area of public health. And following that, I became part of a study as a medical officer and coordinator for an Indo-US cross-national study on dementia or Alzheimer's disease. So it compared two populations, one rural population in Ballabgarh, India, and one in Pittsburgh, Monongahela Valley. So this comparative study for almost 10 years, where first 4 years was development of cognitive screening instruments like Hindi mental state exam, geriatric depression scale Hindi, a cognitive screening battery. And those times when I was visiting the fields almost on a daily basis, where we have to cover about 18 villages on a regular basis, and the experience in developing some of the screening tests like the Hindi mental status exam for a rural elderly illiterate population. How do we come up with a test, for example, serial subtraction of 7? So we gave them a concrete example. You have 20 rupees in your pocket, it takes 3 rupees for you to go, you are left with how much, then next day how much, next day how much. So for each of these questions, it was very interesting to go through an adaptation process for each of these cognitive screening batteries. So that period of my life got me more interested in epidemiology, in public health.
That remained your
turning point, where I got an opportunity to go to the United States to study public health, and then also work there for 2 years in the area of geriatrics and mental health. But then I didn't want to stay there. I wanted to come back and serve in our region. And I got an opportunity to work with World Health Organization in the area of mental health and substance abuse. And because of some personal experiences in the family, members being affected of mental health issues, and also the issues of elderly people, that interested me. So I worked for almost 4 or 5 years in the area of mental health. Then wanted to expand my scope, so went to Maldives as medical officer public health for a couple of years, and then to further broaden in terms of policy making process. So I applied for a position in Timor-Leste as a health policy advisor. After working there for 5 years, then I was appeared for the test for the WHO representative, served there as a WHO representative in Timor-Leste for 5 years. So I spent 10 years of my, work there in Timor-Leste. And not many WHO representatives can say that they have worked with all the health ministers in the history of a country. I worked with all the health ministers in the history of their country, because those who were first health ministers again became health ministers when I was there. So that enriched me a lot. I got to study, and then I had this opportunity to apply for this position, and I was delighted to come here. and to work in Nepal and I look forward to in the next couple of years to see how best we can support to strengthen the health system of Nepal.
You have walked through different avenues of healthcare and you're gathering good amount of experience as well. When did you join Nepal office?
Yeah, so as I said, after health policy advisor, I worked 5 years as the WHO representative of Timor-Leste, and then I was transferred here in September, and I gave my credentials here in October 2020 at the time of the peak of COVID-19 here in Nepal.
And is it your country of choice as well?
Yes, I mean I applied for the position, so it is my choice is also near my home in India, so I made that choice.
We want to make the audience, common people, very clear about WHO. WHO in itself sounds like a question. WHO, who? And people have that question in mind. Who is who? I mean, to make them clear, what does WHO actually do?
WHO is one of the key agencies coordinating health in the United Nations systems. It's the key technical agency for health. So the WHO has a structure where the headquarters office is in Geneva, and there are 5 regional offices in 5 different regions of the world. Nepal comes under the WHO Southeast Asia region. Okay. So the way WHO work is the member states are at the World Health Assembly. There are about 194 countries who are member states of WHO, and WHO is the secretariat. So every year there is a World Health Assembly where policy decisions are made for on various health issues, and then there are resolutions passed where there are actions for the country and actions for WHO. Now these are then further, in the executive board, which consists of 34 member states, which are these are appointed by the member states as experts. So they advise the World Health Assembly and they carry forward the support, provide technical advice to the World Health Assembly and carry forward its decisions. And then followed that is the other regional committees, where the regional director is also elected as the WHO, and there are regional committee meetings generally held in September, where regional resolutions based on the World Health Assembly resolution and decisions are made. And then comes the country office, where the country office has a WHO country cooperation strategy, which is developed in coordination of Ministry of Health, and it supports the implementation of priority programs of Ministry of Health. So that's how the structure works.
Does it implement the programs by itself, or it only facilitates government, does advocacy? There is big questions and curiosity amongst the people about WHO.
Yeah. So WHO basically is not an implementing agency, but there are certain times when we work with the government for implementation of programs. For example, vaccination campaign like COVID-19. So our staff works very closely with Ministry of Health, but to support its implementation in the field. But overall, it provides technical advice to the government, brings the latest scientific evidence from the world, helps to adapt that evidence in the country, supports in the development of policies, strategies, and plan, ensures that we build capacity, and support in the terms of making sure that data is collected and data analysis. So more of an advisory role, but in certain situations like in COVID-19 and other immunization campaigns where we have had to deploy many staff to support actual implementation.
In this span of 73 years, what are the significant or mentionable achievements of WHO as a whole, in the whole world?
In the whole world, I think WHO's key role has been in emphasizing the role of primary health care and universal health coverage. So this is one of the things. Then essential medicine list, which is an important tool for governments to identify or develop their own national essential medicines list. So that's one other way. Then eradication of smallpox is a good example. And now we are progressing towards elimination of polio, where only a few countries are left where polio is there. So these are some of the key achievements in this. But overall, we support in the delivery of programs throughout the life course, which is from the pregnant woman, child, adolescent, and other health, communicable diseases, HIV, TB, malaria, hepatitis. Non-communicable disease now is an increasing burden. So in that area, we develop support in the development of strategies, policies, action plans, developing packages for primary health care for prevention of non-communicable diseases, and also to address some of the social determinants of health.
When this Nepal office, WHO office, was started, and what are the major achievements or accomplishments that was gifted to Nepal and Nepalese people by this office?
WHO in the country has supported work for more than 60 years in supporting the Ministry of Health and the government of Nepal in the area of development of, as I said, national policies, strategies and plans for the health sector, both overall and then subsector strategies. So that's one support in the area of policy making. Okay. Then in terms of disease-specific programs, eradication of smallpox, polio control, measles, progress towards measles elimination, malaria control. Now they are on track to eliminate malaria by 2025. Elimination of trachoma they have already achieved. So these are various programs where we have supported the Ministry of Health and the government on this and continue to advocate and support. And recently, as Nepal is prone to different emergencies, so in terms of emergency preparedness, response, establishment of health emergency operations centers, capacity building, several of the senior officials have been working in the Ministry of Health, have also worked for WHO, have gone on WHO fellowships to be trained abroad. So there's a spectrum of support which we provide to the Ministry of Health over the last 60 years.
This year's slogan has been put forward as building a fairer, a healthier world. What could be the reasons behind choosing this particular slogan?
Just first, I'd like to, as you said in our introductory, why this World Health Day? Starting from the birth of in 1948, when a resolution was passed to have a World Day, to select a specific theme to highlight an issue which is of importance to the world. So that's the purpose. This year's theme of building a fairer, healthier world is apt for now because COVID-19 has brought out all of these inequalities, both between countries, rich, poor, but also within the country among rich, poor, and highlighted how inequity is an issue and why equity matters in making sure that we have a strong, robust system for COVID-19. Because it has become clear to everybody that by controlling COVID-19 in one country, it will not end the epidemic. It has to be across, within the country, in all equally addressed. Unless we address the issues of access to tests, treatments and vaccines, this is not going to help.
There is always a chance of extending the disease again.
So,
this COVID-19 pandemic has not always been taken as a curse to us. In some sense, it's a blessings as well in some other sense. What lessons do you think have it given to the healthcare system to reflect its inequalities or gaps or weaknesses?
yeah, so one of the biggest lessons it has given is that everybody needs to work together. So in a federalized structure also, the national government, the provinces and palikas, they need to work together because none of them individually can address this pandemic and control this. So one is good partnership.
3 years coordination
3 years
is a must.
is a must. And in some ways, Nepal has demonstrated that by its coordination role in terms of making sure that the palika level work, the provincial level work, national level work is well coordinated through the coordination mechanisms which has been established in terms of health cluster meetings, both within the Ministry of Health and also partners. And WHO is a co-chair of the health cluster meeting. So those coordination part has learned well. Also, there have been opportunities to strengthen the emergency preparedness and response. One example, recently there was a function to hand over the Public Health Emergency Operations Center, which WHO has supported to strengthen the emergency operation at the provincial level. The third is, when at the start of the COVID-19, there was only one laboratory which were doing the testing, National Public Health Laboratory. Now we have about 84 laboratories, both in the public and private sector who can do. So it's an immense growth. So WHO has supported in strengthening the National Public Health Laboratory, but also on quality assurance, because we are not supposed to do all the trainings for all of this, but we have developed and supported the NPHL have to do a quality assurance mechanism so that the tests are done well and of good quality. So this is another example, and also enhancing capacity for emergency care because of ICU care, also making sure that logistics distribution systems are well taken care of in terms of oxygen, PPE, mask and other supply. So initially, obviously, there were issues which all countries faced, but Nepal seems to have streamlined this process. So there are several gains from this, several learnings from those, which going forward, because COVID-19 is not the last pandemic, we need to be better prepared for this.
Are you satisfied with the role WHO played in whole world and in the context of Nepal? Are you happy with that?
Yeah, so as this was a new and a big pandemic for all, every organization, including WHO in the initial phases, had to struggle with how best to respond and support the countries. But after the initial days when things were more clear, WHO provided a robust response in terms of an overall preparedness plans and a response plan, which the countries then adopted, and then WHO supported in terms of making sure that the personal protective equipment were available, training of staff, and we launched an open WHO platform where more than 50 languages now the training is available. Even in Nepal, there is training of healthcare workers. In terms of laboratory strengthening, in terms of surveillance, in terms of case investigation, contact tracing. I mean, those efforts were made worldwide, and were made in Nepal also. And we can see some of the results in this, where the epidemic has been well managed. The death rate remains around 1%. Mortality, because that's what we wanted to do, to make sure that the mortality remains low, even if there are a large number of cases. And they have been able to manage that. Obviously, there are more lessons that can be learned on this.
As per the current scenario, people are afraid of the potential second wave of COVID-19 in one side, and in the meantime, they are hopeful because of the availability of vaccine. And still, there are lots of confusions and curiosities regarding vaccine, be it in the users, be it in the government, or be it in all the sides. So how would you like to clarify about the vaccine issues?
Yeah, first I'll address the question on the second possibility of the second wave and recent increase in cases. As you have read and heard, there are a lot of variants which have come up, which are driving the surge of cases across the world, including India and now in Nepal increasing cases. So that brings into the theme of this World Health Day, building a fairer, healthier world. So if you allow the virus to spread, then it will allow it to mutate and have variants, which will then spread easily and faster, as we have seen that. So one of the things is countries need to understand that this virus needs to be controlled throughout the world, and the importance of public health and social measures. But there is a lot of fatigue now of people following these public health and social measures. So I want to emphasize that we need to continue to follow, because this is the only thing which will control the virus, okay? Because the vaccine, although Nepal has been fortunate enough, one is through donation from India of 1 million population, but also Nepal has bought vaccines through the Serum Institute Covishield, and has been able to vaccinate about 5.5% of the population.
That's a good
number,
amount,
yeah,
I
good
guess.
amount. And the process they followed was to protect the health workers and protect those who are above 65, who have a higher chance of mortality. In that way, it's there. But because there is great demand for this vaccine and there is uncertainty of the supply situation, there is anxiety among the population, which is understandable. But WHO for that reason created this ACT accelerator thing and COVAX facility along with UNICEF and Gavi and CEPI to make sure that the vaccines are distributed equitably to the countries. And recently, Nepal got about 348,000 doses from this COVAX facility, and some of the additional doses are likely to come. There has been some delay in getting these vaccines But this process is ongoing, and WHO is advocating that more vaccines should be produced. The licenses should be given by the manufacturers to others to produce those on a mass scale, so that access is there. But for now, Nepal is one of the countries which is doing well in terms of vaccination, and they have recently also got a vaccination from other countries, vaccines from other countries.
Are you happy with the communication mechanism at the time of pandemic like COVID-19? Because people are more afraid, more curious, and the fast flow of information is a must at the time like this.
Yeah, so one of the issues in this during the COVID-19 pandemic is of an infodemic. There's a lot of information available throughout the world in the country, but there is a lot of misinformation is also there. So it is important for ministries and the technical people to communicate clearly what are the issues. And there have been every country at the initial phases, because it was new for everybody, struggled with communicating the key issues behind about the virus, what to do to prevent it. But I think going forward, there have been a lot of engagement by WHO and also the Ministry of Health through regular press briefings, conducting sessions for journalists, also making sure that we collaborate with various platforms, social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, Viber, using all these communication channels to communicate clearly. So certainly there have been challenges, but certainly there have been efforts to communicate that, and it is not enough always to make sure that the right messages are communicated at the lowest level where people the messages should reach in the community, and how to not only pass on information but how to engage community on the issues, because everybody has to go through their livelihoods, because they have been certain phases of lockdown, they have lost some of their jobs in terms of so the poor and the disadvantaged are more affected by this. So but we need to continue to communicate clearly, provide opportunities for the people who are or not privileged to have certain opportunities, provide the necessary support for them to get through this pandemic and improve their overall health situation.
What are the signature plans for your tenure in Nepal?
Yeah, so one I would like to with this that every WHO representative comes up. There's a job we have to do, then there's a way we have to do it. So personally, I would like to engage more, with the Ministry of Health and other partners and the government to support Ministry of Health. Within my office also to have a team where people have access to me and have a strong technical focus on this. So the idea is to make sure that the key areas which we are focus on primary healthcare, strengthening primary healthcare, and to work towards achievement of universal health coverage. And towards that, support the development of various technical packages, basic primary health package, emergency healthcare package, because the constitution of Nepal is very strong in making sure that basic health services are provided free of charge, and also emergency healthcare services. And then the Public Health Act, which followed that, clearly lays out many significant things. And Nepal is committed to the SDG goals and achieving universal health coverage. We will work towards that, and in that area, some of the key strategies are health financing strategy, how we will finance the health sector, human resource for health strategy. And one area of concern is now non-communicable diseases, where recent data shows that about 60%, more than 60% of deaths are due to non-communicable disease, which means heart disease, lung disease, stroke, diabetes, and these diseases, respiratory disorders, where people are affected disproportionately. And the risk factors associated with that are very prevalent, like tobacco use, alcohol use, lack of physical activity, unhealthy diet, which requires a whole of society, whole of multi-sectoral approach. And my effort will be to make progress in this area in reducing these risk factors, the effect of supporting the government on capacity building, both at the national level, at the provincial level, and also addressing the importance of addressing mental health, which has now exacerbated due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So we have supported the development of a national mental health strategy and action plan. Now we are going in the process to support this plan, And then another area is malaria control. These are some of the key areas which I will try to focus on during my tenure.
There are many huge stack of hiccups, problems, and challenges in the health sector of Nepal still prevalent. Like there are three tiers of government, but there is a prominent lack of coordination. Local governments, which are provided with heavy authority, they are still confused. They are still in neutral gear. So, likewise, there are many other challenges like problems in healthcare, insurance system, setting the standards, protocols, cost standardizations, etc. What will be your role in supporting government in fixing these issues?
Yeah, so every country goes through a process and there is a beginning. So, as I said, the constitution of Nepal in terms of healthcare is very strong. The Public Health Act is very strong. Their commitment to international goal is very strong. Their commitment for universal health coverage is very strong. So they have made a beginning in making sure that resources are allocated national, provincial, and Palika level. So and they are in the process of strengthening capacity to be able to plan better at the Palika level, provincial level, and national level, and strengthen the coordination mechanism across this. So COVID-19 has given an example of how it can be done if there is will. So that's there, and so our role will be to strengthen, to support in the development of necessary guidelines, treatment protocols, ensuring capacity building is there, and then advocate for equitable distribution of, in terms of human resources, equitable distribution of healthcare facilities, properly well-functioning facilities, and all the guidance related to that, and highlighting these issues of a whole of government, whole of society approach, which is required. And health is just not health; it's dependent on many factors. To making sure that health in policy is a theme across, and I am glad to see in the recent discussions which I have had in terms of the health financing strategy, in terms of health human resource, or the multi-sectoral action plan for non-communicable disease, these issues are being discussed and how these need to be taken. So I see a good path for Nepal to progress forward. Yeah, sure. And WHO will support, but also works within the UN system with other UN agencies, UNICEF, for example, for immunization, UNFPA for reproductive, maternal, and child health issues. So we work together as part of the UN to support, but also with other partners who are in the country who provide health support, for example, GIZ and the NHSP, World Bank, and many partners. As I said in the beginning, together we can do a lot of things in a coordinated way to support ultimately to improve the health of population of Nepal.
How have you been taking Nepal's healthcare system in comparison with healthcare system of other countries where you work for?
Yeah, so Nepal obviously has a strong, long history, more than 60 years, and the system is progressing and building. Where other countries which I worked in, smaller countries, which were independent in 2012, where they were building their health system from scratch. So in that particular area, I had more engagement in terms of having something built new. Here, there is already an infrastructure and health system in place, although there are challenges in terms, as you talked about, different federalism. So there is a new challenge on how to make sure that how we can, WHO and personally we can support in making sure that we strengthen primary health care to achieve universal health coverage. So different countries provide different opportunities and experience. So here I was very delighted because a lot of experts, very good experts in the area of health, and I'm pleased to see that because from where I came from in Timor-Leste, it was developing. Their human resources were developing. Here you have experts in many fields. So it's good to be able to work with them and make sure that we address the issue of health.
Happy and
delighted.
What are your core values, maybe 3 or 4, that helps you in decision-making process and keeping your team intact?
Yeah, I mean, personally, what is important for me is integrity. Okay, that's most important. Then commitment towards what we do, and full commitment for that. And also patience is also, you cannot call it at value, but that's very important. And to be ability to listen to all, to take the views from everybody. Also because of the background which I come from, and to which I understand the inequities better, because I also come from a poor family where my education has been supported, because my eldest brother, my family was living in a small village. The eldest brother was very bright. So his teacher in 9th standard told my parents, you should send him to Pune. Pune is a bigger educational city because he is bright. So he stood first in Pune and 5th in Maharashtra in his 10th standard exam. But what I am telling this is, after that he got a scholarship. And from his scholarship money and my father's salary, they were able to have a house in Pune. And that's why the family shifted. My other brother also became a doctor. I became a doctor. And my other brother became in a bank professional. So what value education brings it, that's very important. And as one of the determinant of health also, because the education brought that. So this is some of the things which I follow, and I try to make sure that I engage everybody, consult everybody, understand the culture of the country, try to speak in the language of the country. In Timor-Leste also I used to give my speeches in local language in Tetun as much as possible. I'm not here to learn Nepali language. I'm here to understand more the issues of the country, especially the health issues, and to be able to engage people, and also build a rapport, relationship, because based on that only you can then work further and support the country in a better way.
What are your personal hobbies? And do you think this can be covered here in Nepal?
Yeah, so actually I have already started some of the hobbies. One of the hobbies was on photography, but not using specialized equipment, but only my cell phone. So just before coming to Nepal, I had a joint photo exhibition with Dr. Ramos Horta, who is the Nobel Peace Prize winner. So he used to take sunset photos, I used to take sunrise photos. So as my departure, event, we had a joint photo exhibition. So I continue to do this, and if you follow my social media page, you will see a lot of photographs. So that's one which I continue. Like, I like traveling. So unfortunately, because of COVID-19, I have not been able to travel much in the country, but that I'm sure. I like cooking, which we have started, and I also like to cook in a group so that we can taste different cuisines. That also is restricted because of COVID-19.
Cook Nepalese food as well, dal bhat.
Dal bhat I know, because same, yeah. But I am trying to find certain things which I can cook. So one of the dishes which I liked is this Newari aloo. Piru aloo. So I like that. So I have learned to do that now. But these are the main hobbies which I have started. And also, and of course, not to forget walk the talk. It's also my hobby, but also part of work. So when a hobby is part of your work, it's great, correct? So I am able to engage.
You seem to be active in social media. You keep conducting many campaigns like Walk the Talk or many campaigns. What are the reasons behind it? People want to know.
Yeah, definitely. Social media is very now popular in Nepal. Almost 90% of the population of Nepal is on Facebook, but also on other social media messages. And social media can be a good medium to pass correct messages if you are able to do that in a proper way. And what I try to do, I did that even before in Timor-Leste, where we were able to, because there also a large population is on Facebook. It's a good medium to provide health messages, health promotion messages, and campaigns, for example, immunization campaign. And the one which is you talked about, which is close to my heart, is Walk the Talk campaign, which is to create
that's very touchy.
Because as you know, as I talked about non-communicable diseases, one of the risk factors is lack of physical activity. And Nepal has a good tradition of in Ayurveda, yoga, and physical activity. So to promote that, it's good that we are collaborating with the Ministry of Health and through social media to create this momentum on this. Because in Timor-Leste, we started with 5 people in this walk the talk every Saturday, which ended up in 1,000 people participating on their own on a regular basis. We just made an announcement in social media. We are hoping to launch this soon in Nepal officially with Ministry of Health. But personally, the WHO country officer and along with certain partners, we have already started this campaign. So these are some things which we can do, positive things, to make sure to have, like they say, hamro swastha hamro hath. You can take care of your own
In your
health
hands, yeah.
in your hands. So it's good to pass on positive messages, and I stick to that. If you do that, you can do a lot of things.
Thank you very much for your valuable time. You provided your time and delivered important information despite your busy schedule. Thank you very much.
Dhanyavad. Thank you for having me.